Every year, MLB Network puts together their top 10 right now at each position across the diamond in Major League Baseball. And I have been following suit here on the Baseball Banter Broadcast, bringing you my own top 10 right now at each one of those positions. I now have the privilege to be working with a tremendous team, and we're going to be bringing you our thoughts and our individual top 10 right now. We want to hear from you down in the comment section below. Who are your top 10 right now at each position? So now we're going to begin with our list.
All right, baseball fans, we are once again back at it, bringing you our top 10 right now with our top 10 right fielders. And to join me on this list, we have none other than our resident coach, Coach Ken Anderson. What's going on, Coach?
Nothing much, Jeremy. Doing all right?
Doing well. And this is going to be a fun list, an interesting list for sure. As we know, right field is a power position in the Major League Baseball. So it'll be interesting to see how our top 10 power rankings go for this particular episode. So as we begin, Coach, you want to start off with number 10?
Yeah, I agree. I think right fielder needs to be more of a power position. There is one player that I kind of put in there that's maybe not the power, but definitely that's what Major League clubs are looking for. So my number 10 is a guy that sprung onto the scene last year, a big year. We'll see if he can do another one. It's Joe Adell. Joe Adell last year, you've seen the talent in Joe. And last year, I don't know what the Angels' record would have been with all the injuries they had, but he kind of carried them. I know people say, well, they had a bad team, but that team would have really been bad. He had big hits, and they had two or three guys in that lineup that carried them all year long. And Joe Adell also has a good arm. What I look for in the top 10 and outfielders is I want some defense in my outfield, and I want them to be able to, at least hold their own, if anything. We're going to get to one later on. Maybe he doesn't do as much, but then you got to overdo it at the plate. But he does hold his own. He's got a big time arm. He can run, and Joe Adell's got major pop. We'll see if he can do it again in a back-to-back year. But that's my number 10.
No, definitely an interesting pick. I think that, Joe Adell is one of those guys viewed as a top prospect for a long time, and the Angels were kind of waiting for him to take that next step. And they kind of dreamt on the tandem of Mike Trout and Joe Adell. So I think it'll be interesting to see kind of how that tandem shakes out going forward for the Angels. Now, I will say that Adell did not make my top 10 list. But for me at number 10, I'm taking a flyer on a young guy in Jack Caglione from the Kansas City Royals. I think that his power profile is something to really be paying attention to. I think that, it's going to be interesting to see because outfield obviously is not his natural position, but they have him out there because that's where the team is going to need him to be. But I think that he'll be able to produce like a high caliber right fielder. So I think that maybe taking a little bit of a flyer, a little bit of a chance on a young guy. But for me, I'm taking that shot on Jack Caglione.
Yeah, I like him a lot. And we, me and you don't ever share each other's list, but I always go 15 guys on a top 10 and then break it down. And he was in my top 15. It's very interesting. He has a big year, and hopefully he will. My number 9 is the guy who doesn't have the power. It's Sal Frelick. Sal Frelick does everything else. Now, I think that as his career goes on, you will see a little bit more power numbers, and I think he will get to the 20 home run eventually as the body grows. We all know that. They get a little bit stronger, but he does everything else. He runs the bases. He's one of the best base runners in baseball, and he hits the ball in the gap. He's one of those guys that's really fun to watch because he can go to third very quickly. But defensively, quick story real quick. His opening major league game was against us in Milwaukee. They had a lot of injuries. They brought him up, and the dude made defensive play up there. They took away 3 home runs that series, leaping over the wall. He's a tremendous athlete, and he's one I'm really, really going to watch as he develops. I think he's a guy, and all of us Braves, Yankees fans, I hate to say it, Dodgers, whatever, He's probably not going to stay in Milwaukee his whole career, maybe. So he's somebody that maybe we can pick up in 3 or 4 years. He'll go in our outfield because this guy can absolutely play. And I love the fact that he plays hard. He's about as close to a Pete Rose type we have in the game right now. He plays hard every day. And Sal Frelick made number 9.
Yeah, and I think that that's an absolutely great pick and a great slot. As Coach said, we don't discuss our list together. Sal Frelick is also my number 9. So I think that everything you said is spot on. This is an absolute gamer. I love what he does on a nightly basis with the hustle and the heart that he displays every single night, every single moment of every game. And there's not much more that you can say than you have already stated about his capabilities. But for me, Sal Frelick is also number 9.
Yeah, very good pick. Number 8 is Wilyer Abreu. I love the team that Boston's putting together, and I'm sure Yankee fans are not liking it as much. They got a lot of young talent, and he's at the forefront. And Wilyer can do a lot of stuff. He's another guy that can hit with power. He can, in that ballpark for sure, he can hit with some pop. And then he can run, and he's very good defensively. And another kid that I like, this is the whole coaching thing that we tend to talk about, that I come from a perspective, I like his demeanor. He never seems rattled, and I think that he's the guy, and he's good enough. He's good enough. This is how good he really is. That the Sox are shopping Jarren Duran. I mean, when Jarren Duran's one of the best talented players in the game, and the Sox are so loaded with young talent, and Abreu being one of them, that he is getting shopped. So that tells you how good Abreu is, and he made number 8 on my list.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that that is another tremendous pick. I also have Wilyer Abreu at my number 8, and everything you said. I think that you can't put a bigger stamp on approval of a player than the fact that the Boston Red Sox are shopping arguably one of the best players in baseball. Top 10, 15 potential player in Jarren Duran, and they're shopping him because of the outfield that they had that consists with Wilyer Abreu. So no doubt about it. Another tremendous pick there from Coach and myself as we linked up on this without sharing our list. That's the funniest part about this, is that we don't share these lists before doing this episode and revealing to each other and to you all here about this. And we locked up for picks number 8 and number 9.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And I've had people say, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Me and Jeremy stay so busy." And so, yes, we know, and we always like it because we get to see each other what each one's saying.
Yeah.
Number 7 is Seiyu Suzuki. I love Seiyu. And he kind of rebounded. He was a guy that could have went both ways. He started struggling a little bit defensively. His ultimate moment was in Atlanta, where he caught them a game late against the Cubs, where he just had a debacle in right field. You cannot have a game you miss 3 fly balls in the major leagues. That's more like 10-year-old. And even 10-year-old, you're going to be mad at your kid, And but he brings a lot, and he's got a lot of power. His stroke is perfect for Wrigley, and his demeanor is great for the Cubs fans. And Seiyu had big hit last year after big hit for them, and he just has the ultimate tools. He hits. I think that in their lineup, I understand why he hits cleanup, but I think he would even produce even more if he was hitting a different spot. So as time goes on, now that they've got Bregman in there, and Bush is even developing, I don't know if Bush, they're going to just keep Bush in the leadoff, but you got a couple of power guys there that maybe say you can go to a different spot like the 2-hole or something, where you can hit the ball, run the ballpark behind a runner. And I think you'll see that OPS even go up a little bit higher than it already is. And I think eventually you'll see an upper 800 OPS out of Suzuki as the career goes on. And that's why I say Suzuki made my list.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, when I was going through, my early iterations of this list, Seiyu was in that same kind of spot for me. As I continued to kind of battle with my list, ultimately coming down to it, he just missed for me. But I think that you're absolutely spot on. I think that what he is able to provide the Cubs offensively is perfect fit in that lineup and in that ballpark. And I'm curious to see what he does in this upcoming season now, not having to worry about looking at over his shoulder for Kyle Tucker. So I think it'll be a very interesting season for him. Now, for me, coming in at number 7, I have Lawrence Butler at the Athletics. I think Butler is just so dynamic of a talent. I think that he could easily really climb up these top 10 lists very easily and very quickly if he continues to produce the way that we've seen. I think that, when you look, especially at the right field list, it's kind of heavy at the top, and for a young player like that to be able to kind of take the next step, I think that is, in the works for him. So I want to see a little bit more from him, but I think that without a doubt, he's one of the top 10 right fielders in the game today.
And we discuss a lot in baseball. These outfielders are tough. I project Lawrence as a center fielder. I think his tools will move him to center. So that's the only reason he didn't make my list. If I were to break down a top 10 list in center field, he would make it. That's how talented Lawrence Butler is, and easily can be in top 10 in any of the outfield positions, as he's a fantastic ball player. So I understand that. Number 6 is now the evil guy that everybody wants to talk about, and that's Kyle Tucker. Kyle is a tremendous ball player. But one of the reasons he made it a little bit lower on my list is because he has been banged up. And we have another guy coming up that's been banged up too. But the difference is for me, and this is not Dodger hate here. My wife always says I'm a little bit of a closet Dodger fan because I learned my guru was Rick Honeycutt. So I've always had that in my life, but I don't root for the Dodgers, but I do respect them. So I'm not rooting against him, but that back issue is something that's going to be interesting to monitor on how the Dodgers approach him. And he played a lot of left field for the Cubs this past year, and now he's going to be going to right field. So I put him in at 6. He's a tremendous talent at $60 million a year, which is overpaid, but that tells you how good he is. Should be on the list, but he hasn't really had a full season since 23. And so it's going to be interesting if he can back it up. And that's why I slide him down to number 6 on the top 10.
Yeah, no, I think that is a very apt, perception of Tucker. And I also have him at number 6. So I think that when you look at, especially with now the way this offseason played out with the crazy $60 million price tag that has now been attached to him for a average annual value basis, I think that there is going to be a lot of pressure on him to kind of step up and be able to have that fully healthy season, to have that, kind of all-star caliber year that we saw from him back in 2023 with the Astros. So I think it'll be interesting to see how he plays out. But when you look at just the natural talent that he has and the overall skill set, you can't remove him from the top 10 right now. Like, there's not enough players that have surpassed him in that category to be able to, supersede him in this list. And there's without a doubt he belongs in the top 10. But it is because of that, injury concern and history that he kind of gets knocked and bumped out of the top 5, if you will.
Yeah, I agree. Now, the next 2 spots are interesting. I flipped these 2 guys, I don't know how many times. And I'm not sure how the list would have been if me and you had got a chance to do it a few days earlier. But this is where I'm going. I'm going Corbin Carroll, number 5. Corbin is, let's put it this way, he's a power-hitting Sal Freeland. This is where Sal Freeland can get to. He can hit the ball with pop, but he's the same thing. He's dynamic. He hits the ball in the gap. He's fun to watch. And he can run and steal. The difference with him and most of the outfielders we have listed, defensively he can go get it, but his arm is weak, and you can run on him. And so that's something to take into account when you do a top 10 list. The other thing is he's had kind of a weird career so far. Great rookie year, down year, good year. So I think, I'll get to the next guy when I go on my list. That's 2 things to take into account. What are we going to see? Well, who is the real Corbin Carroll? And this is a big year for him. There won't be a lot of pressure on the Diamondbacks. They're going to play with house money. That's all their players. They got a lot of talented players, but there's nobody going to pick the Diamondbacks to go to the playoffs this year, unless you're just a Diamondbacks fan. And even they might not pick it. So I'm interested to see what kind of year he puts together. but I think he's a tremendous athlete and talent. I do think eventually he'll slot to left field just because of the arm. But he definitely is one of the top players in the game, and that's why I got him at number 5.
Yeah, no, 100%, and we are in lockstep once again. I also have Corbin Carroll at my number 5 spot for everything you said. He could be a little bit higher up the list. I think if he was in left field, he'd probably be top 2, top 3.
I
Uh,
agree.
but that arm is going to be the concern. As a right fielder, you expect that cannon. Those impressive throws. You think back to Ichiro Suzuki and Jose Bautista, and further back to Roberto Clemente, and that's kind of the one tool that's lacking from his 5 tool cabinet. So I think that'll be interesting to see. But what he does, everything else is just such a dynamic talent. And like you said, I do think that Sal Frelick is a good comp. With Corbin Carroll, just Carroll has a little bit more pop to his bat. So I think that it's going to be an interesting season for the Diamondbacks. As you said, it's going to be hard in that division, and especially with the moves that the Dodgers have made. The Giants, the Padres, they're always competitive over the last several years. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Diamondbacks do to kind of address that this year, and how their young players play and take those next steps forward. One of which is Corbin Carroll. So I definitely agree with you.
Yeah, I agree. And we get to number 4 on the list, my list, and that is very tough. And you would think it'd be easily over Corbin, but the problem with Fernando Tatis Jr. is he does everything well. Defensively, he's great, big arm, he can run. I actually think he has really good leadership skills. Some of the things that he gets questioned, but I do not think that he should be questioned at all. I think he is a good guy on the field. He does play hard. He does kind of show his emotions, but that's sometimes is warranted. Matter of fact, I'm a fan of a team that we like to see a little bit more emotion, and our players in Atlanta, they tend to be a little bit more buttoned up. So, but the thing with Fernando, and I pause to look down here, but this is Fernando pre-steroids, PED suspension, 960 OPS. He come back 812. So Fernando, we know what you are, but we've got to see it, because 812 OPS on my list here would be number 8 of the OPS guys of their best year. I mean, I just put down their best year, and I'm like, wow, I didn't realize there was that much of a drop off. So he's definitely not in the big 3 category. And I know a lot of the MLB nows and some of them, because of all the analysts, are going to try to put him in there. But you look at the numbers, Fernando Tatis has struggled since his suspension. Now, I think he will bounce back. And maybe that's another guy who doesn't have as much pressure, because San Diego just heard news today that one of their other pitchers may be gone and may retire. Well, Padres going to be a relaxed team going out there. So maybe Fernando has that year, gets up over 900 OPS. Like, we know he can do it. But that's the reason why I got him at number 4, is the differential between his suspension before and after is very telling.
Yes, agree. 100% agree. And one more time in lockstep, I think the rest of our list is probably going to play out exactly the same. But I also have Fernando at number 4, and for the exact reason, there is a big distinction between his pre-PED suspension, play and MVP caliber level, to his post, which would be at an all-star level. And that's not a knock on Fernando and what he is capable of doing. And as you said, I do agree. I think that he does have a leadership quality about him, especially on that team. I think that they look to him as kind of an emotional leader there. So I think that there is a lot still to be discovered and uncovered by Fernando in his own game. But when you look at what this list is, it is going to take a little bit more than the incredible defensive player that he became as an outfielder. I mean, it almost seemed as if he was born to play the outfield, and this is a guy that came up as a shortstop. So when you look at what those intangibles are, yes, he can be this high up, but to kind of take that next step and to hit that next echelon, you have to be an extreme MVP caliber type player. And Fernando hasn't been that offensively since he came back from his PED suspension. You and I both believe that talent is there and that ability is there, but it's about seeing that actually take place and come to fruition on the field.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And for baseball, I hope he does, because he's a tremendous fun player to watch when you
So
get to watch him live. Yeah. Number three is Juan Soto. Juan is definitely these are the three best to me in my eyes. What differentiates them is the defense. Juan really struggles, and it'd be interesting as his career goes on where he ends up slotting in. And I'm always kind of wondering if he maybe could do a Bryce Harper thing and actually go take some ground balls at first and move him to first base.
yeah,
And Bryce took up to that, so we'll see. I did the best 3 years of these three guys at the top, and Juan Soto's best year we had a 989 OPS, which is outstanding, great. And part of the issue with him is when you do OPS and all this stuff, the slug, is he does walk a ton. He's got the best eye in baseball. I was going to say one of these, but no, he has the best eye in baseball. And I think sometimes it's a little bit of a detriment. I've heard other analysts, former ball players, say that they'd like for him to swing at some of those pitches because that ball that is missing, that he can see is missing by this much, he might could drive it down the line for a double or into the gap for a double. And that would, his OPS would jump up even a little bit more. But the reason he's behind the other two is because defensively he lacks what they have. And the fact of the matter is that the other two's teams tend to rally more around him than Juan's has. Now, look, he's got a chance this year. The Mets did a few things. He's got a guy going to center field. Let's see what kind of leader Juan can be. Now, the clubhouse has been tore up in New York, and him and Frankie are going to be the two leaders in this ball team. So I see how he takes Louis Robert and how he can maybe get him to the next level. And I think then Juan will go up in everybody's eyes. But Juan Soto, tremendous, best eye in the game, tremendous hitter, and that's why he's number three on the list.
yeah, 100% agree. I also have Juan at number three, and it's for that exact same reason. I think that the only distinction, because obviously, and I've said it multiple times on the channel, Juan Soto is the modern day version of Ted Williams, right? The eye at the plate is absolutely impeccable. There is none better in the game today than Juan Soto when it comes to understanding and knowing his own strike zone. I'm always reminded of the story back in the day with Wade Boggs, who was another guy who had an impeccable eye. That if Boggs didn't swing at a pitch, that was a ball, and Mr. Boggs will tell you as such, and that's kind of how Juan Soto is in the modern game today.
Yeah.
If Soto's not swinging at a close pitch, it's because it's a ball. So I think that it's going to be interesting to see how this year now, as you mentioned, the Mets have revamped the entire team, kind of to suit Juan Soto, based on some of the reports that we've heard about different clauses in his contract. But, when you look at what separates him from the top two guys on this list, it is the defense. And when you look at, and obviously I got to see him up close every day with the Yankees in 2024, and the Yankees moved him to right field, obviously where he naturally plays, but they moved Judge, who was the natural right fielder there, out of right field to suit Juan Soto. And they, in the smaller right field, Soto got nominated, and it still baffles me to this day, for a Gold Glove. Didn't win, but even just the nomination baffled me because we know that he's not that kind of defender. And you can see when he's making plays in the outfield, they don't look routine, they don't look smooth, and they don't feel natural. His natural position is a hitter. At some point, as you said, the Mets should probably have taken a look at converting him to first base. Cameron Maben a few days ago had tweeted out a cryptic tweet about a guy potentially moving into the infield, the outfield. So maybe it is Juan Soto becoming the new first baseman for the Mets. But I think that ultimately we're going to see Juan Soto become a DH before too long. And that's really where he's going to shine, right? And obviously, if you take him out of having to play defense and just solely focus on the offensive side of his game, he can improve so much more, in my opinion. But like you said, I think that there's an opportunity for him to kind of maybe not take some of those close pitches and do some damage. I mean, we've seen, guys like Luis Ariz that swing at everything, right? But his batting ability, his bat to ball ability is next level. And Soto has that. We've seen him battle. We've seen him, when he's in that 2 strike count where he has to kind of fight and battle back, he's, fouling off some things that are close. Whereas if he were to take a little bit more of an aggressive approach, could find that next level of OPS by hitting some more balls into play, and like you said, maybe launching them down the line or into the gap for a double, as opposed to sitting there and taking a pitch for a walk. So I think that it's going to be that next level of defensive capabilities and lack thereof that separates him, and that's why he also ends at number 3 on my list.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting with him this year too. Is how he wraps his head around being okay. This is the guy that we did all these moves for, so it'll be interesting going forward. Number 2 is the guy I got my hat on, Ronald Acuna Jr. And that cryptic tweet by Cameron Rayburn is interesting because Ronnie loves to play shortstop and third base. And he's down in Venezuela playing short and third all over the place, enough to where Mark Bowman, our head beat writer here, had to go up and said, "Are we really thinking about?" Bray said, "No, we're not. He's not going to the infield." So, but Ronald Acuna Jr. is a tremendous talent. Now, we all know what the issue is. He's had 2 knee situations, and, so how he comes through will be a huge on his rest of his career, and also a contract is coming up in a couple of years. Now, the reports out of Venezuela is he's running the bases. He's stealing over a base a game. So he seems to be healthy. And if he's healthy, let's see what the 23 numbers say he can do. 337, 41 home runs, 106 RBIs, 1,012 OPS. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. And if he's that good, the Braves are that good. Like, he is a huge difference in the Braves. Last year, Ronald Acuna did come and play, and he never really felt great. He was whatever. And he had probably one of his worst years, and he still hit 294, 21 homers. I mean, he didn't play half year. If he'd played the full year, he still would have had a good year.
Yep.
And he would probably had a hot streak to get him back over 300. So defensively, he's got arguably one of the top 5 arms in baseball. He throws over 100 miles an hour. All Yankee fans don't have to even tell her. He threw a guy out going to third that there's nobody else in baseball that can really do it. Maybe Tatis. He throws a ball, and it shocked the third base coach, the runner, even our third baseman. It shocked him too. Like, all 3 of them could not believe that he was going to be out. And that's kind of arm he's got. So when the ball gets hit in Atlanta and that outfield, I watch the runners. They are going one base at a time because he can throw anybody out at any time. Now, as far as the way he runs after a ball, he could be better. I would like for him to get to where Tatis runs. But that, again, is Tatis played shortstop. His feel of moving around is a little bit better. But we also have a dynamic center fielder. We don't need him to run, because our center fielder is one of the best, if not the best, defensive center fielder. So we don't need him to do those kind of things. The Yankees a little bit in that too. And the guy they have in right, he doesn't have to do as much because their center fielder can do the same thing and just go get the ball. But if he needs to, he can make a play, and he's just tremendous. And the thing is, with great players, nobody sits and takes and goes to the concession stand when he's at bat. The whole stadium stands. We're at the back row. Our seat takes the back row. And when he bats, there's lined up 40, 50 people watching him swing every at bat. And that's when you know hopefully he does stay healthy, puts the talent, and we added a great outfielder to our Hall of Fame this year. If he can get healthy, he'll be another Braves outfielder that can make the Hall of Fame, and that's why Ronald Acuna is number 2.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Again, in lockstep here, my number 2 as well is Ronald Acuna Jr. That throw that you were mentioning, completely flat-footed and just absolutely a rocket of a cannon for an arm, no doubt about it. What he's capable of, when we saw a healthy season from him, I mean, making complete records just shattered. 40-70 season is not anything to be sneezing at. I think that this is one of the most dynamic players in all of baseball, MVP caliber player when healthy. And like you said, that's going to be the biggest factor for Acuna, is going to be staying healthy. If he can remain healthy for a full season, we're going to see him climb back up into that MVP conversation very, very quickly, very, very easily. No doubt about it. So yeah, Ronnie is my number two as well.
Yeah, and I think if he's running that well, the one thing he would like to do is just do the 50-50 thing. So he saw that getting done. So we'll see how that goes. Speaking of that, the number one, I think we'll have to hit 60 home runs again. The number one to me is the best player in the game. Maybe Shohei Ohtani is 1 and 2. Aaron Judge last year 331, 53 homers, 114 RBIs, 1.144 OPS, and he kind of played hurt a little bit too. It's amazing what he could really do. He's a big man. I actually I did not cheat. I did not cheat. Jeremy always gives me his blessing, but I went on a different podcast and talked to some guys, and we talked about how a big of a man he really is. And when you know as Braves fans how big Freddie Freeman used to walk around is, and you see Aaron Judge stand next to Freddie Freeman, and he's way bigger. And to know what he can do at the plate and run and all those things is amazing. He is so God-given talented. He's also probably of all of our superstars. I think Shohei, with the language and stuff is very too, but I don't know. But I know Aaron Judge is probably one of the most humble superstars I've ever seen. And what can he not do? I believe that if he wanted to, he could play almost any position and be a top 10. I think he's that kind of athlete. I know this here, same thing as Ronnie. When he comes to the plate, there's nobody going to go to the bathroom or go to the concession stand. You got to see Judge hit, and that's in any ballpark. Same thing with Acuna, and it's just tremendous. And he's a guy that I think is great that he's going to play for one organization now. And we know 99 is going to get retired. It's going to be in the Hall of Fame. And to me, when you're at the top of these top 10 lists, and we've done some other ones, and some of the other guys have done other ones, that's what we've been hammering on Baseball Banter. You're going to be the top of the list. You've got to be almost a Hall of Fame guy. And we know Aaron Judge is. And I'm excited to see him this year. And the team, the podcast film is a rival team, and they're not as excited because they know what he's capable of. And actually, I think he could have even had a better year than he had, and he had an MVP type year. So no doubt about it. Aaron Judge is the best right fielder in the game, and that's why he's number one.
Absolutely, 100% in lockstep. I think when you look at what number 62 over my shoulder does on a yearly basis, not just what he does as far as on the field, which we know we can detail about his accolades year in and year out. I mean, this is a guy who 4 of the last 5 years has hit 50 home runs, and only because of injury was he not able to hit 50 the other. I think that when you look at what he does from a leadership perspective, as you said, a humble superstar, humble giant in this game, and somebody that people look to as the leader in that clubhouse, and someone that you can put on as the face of baseball and know that you're not going to be embarrassed. I think that this is the kind of player that you can truly build a franchise legacy around. And, for him to be on obviously my favorite team, but, arguably the most historic franchise in all of sports, this is the recognizable player, the recognizable name. And there's no doubt about it when you look at what he is capable of offensively, or what he does defensively, which to me is very underrated defensively. He's an underrated base runner. Obviously, he's not going to go out there and steal 30, 40, 50 bags. That's just not how he's going to play the game, just because he's going to try and protect himself where he can. But he's a very good base runner. He goes first to third. He can steal that bag when teams aren't paying attention to him. This is a guy who's capable of doing everything. We spoke about Sal Frelick earlier, and Corbin Carroll as 5-tool players, right? Guys that can be those guys that hit those different metrics. Aaron Judge is a 5-tool player. Obviously, his speed is not going to be blistering as it would for, a Ronnie Acuna or even Ohtani or Bobby Witt Jr. But when you look at what he does, he's a smart base runner. He's going to take that extra bag, and all the rest of the intangibles you just absolutely have to look at as among the very upper echelon of Major League Baseball. So without a doubt, Aaron Judge is the number one right fielder in the game, and for me, him and Otani are one A, depending on what you want to look at as far as with Otani being a two-way star, a hitter and a pitcher. If you want to give him that edge there, but I think that what Judge does as a hitter is, and to go out there and win the batting title and hit over 50 home runs, and that the batting title was more important to him than was the 50 home run mark. I think that when you have that as the mentality of going out there to be a 300 hitter, knowing that you're going to be able to hit, 40, 45, 50, 50 plus home runs on top of that. That to me is just a player that takes it to another level. And I could sit here and gush about Aaron Judge all day just because obviously being the superstar on my team, but this is just one of the faces of baseball. So no doubt about it. Aaron Judge, number one in the game for me as well.
Amen. Yeah, he's tremendous, and I encourage all baseball fans when you see the greatest at something come, you get a chance. They say the same thing about Miguel Cabrera. I thought was the best right-handed hitter I thought in his time. Same thing. If you get a chance and the Yankees are in town, go to the game, and if anything, just to watch Aaron Judge and see how great he really is. It's just tremendous.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I think that, sometimes, and Yankee fans are kind of the worst at this, but, we're witnessing a level of greatness that we don't see on a yearly basis, right? Those of us that lived through and watched the steroid era where we saw guys hitting, 50, 60, 70 home runs, we kind of got accustomed to it almost, right? Then obviously when the testing got put into place, that kind of stopped for a long time, but seeing a player go out there and it's almost taken for granted that he's going to hit 50 home runs as if it's an easy thing to do. And it's not, to see what he's capable of on a year in and year out basis is not something to be taken for granted or to be taken lightly. It's to be, revered and respected as what he's been doing over the last several years. So without a doubt, somebody to pay serious attention to, whether you're a Yankee fan or not. If you're a fan of baseball, you're going to want to take a look and see what Judge is doing on a nightly basis.
Very true. Very true.
So we want to thank you guys for joining us, but we want to hear from you. We want to know your top 10 right fielders in the game today. Who makes your list? Where is your list different from ours? Ours were very, very, very similar. So let us know where you agree, disagree down in the comment section below. And while you're down there, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button down below, as well as the bell for post notifications here on the Baseball Banter Broadcast, as it truly does continue to help us build and grow this baseball community here. And we want to hear from you. So definitely let us know your thoughts in the comments. And as we continue on, you're definitely not going to want to miss all the new and exciting content that we have coming your way in this upcoming season. So, Coach, I want to thank you once again for joining me here. And we want to thank you guys for joining us and watching as well. And we'll catch you on the next video. Peace.